Alright, welcome back, and now let's get straight into business. So this time, no introductory small talk. This is part 3, and I'm grateful for your likes and your support. So let's just continue with what we're working on. So now we are getting into some really interesting stuff. We are getting into masks, we are getting into layers, we are getting into smart objects. But unfortunately, we are just going to touch the basics so that you'll be able to work your way around the Photoshop while doing some really interesting things. So we are going to be looking at exactly 3 things today: layers, masks, and smart objects. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. So layers, what exactly are layers? Layers are just what they are, layers. Okay, they are stacks of material on top of one another. Like you could have a paper on a paper on a paper, or like an onion has layers to it, or like your skin has layers. Okay, that is simply what layers are. So on the Photoshop interface, at your far right, you'd find the layers panel. But before anything, let me take it back to what it's supposed to be like. Yeah, essentials. This is by default. These are your panels and palettes. So we have here the color panel. I don't need it. I don't need it, so I'm going to get rid of it. Learn libraries, I don't need it, so I'm going to get rid of it. And then we have our layers, color channels, and paths. When we start creating paths, you know what they are. So we are going to find our layers over here, but before we could see that in practice, we're going to have to create a new document. This time let's make the width 2500. Good. So the very first layer I'm going to introduce you to is your background layer. Your background layer is like your paper on your board. Okay, let's just consider it that way. It's like your paper on your board on which you're going to continue creating layers upon layers upon layers upon layers till whenever your artwork is done. Now the background layer always comes locked, you get it? And so for instance, if you're working on a drawing board in real life physically, you're going to have clips to clip down the drawing board so that it is steady enough for you to draw and move around conveniently. And so that is why we always have this background layer coming locked. It's usually white or black or whatever the color is set it while creating your Photoshop file. So that is it for the background layer. So but you could also unlock it. Just click to unlock it, and once you unlock it, you can move it. You see it. So let's say it were locked. Good. And then we're unable to move it, but this prompt comes allowing us to convert it to a normal layer. So by default, a background layer is not considered a normal layer because it's a background and it's locked. So you could click on this to take out the lock, or back, put the lock back on it. So that is basically it. So now how do we create layers? Now there are 2 ways I know we could create layers. You could either use the create new layer button down here, as you've seen it. Let me show it to you. Down here, hit it, and then a new layer is created. So that means with whatever we do, we are not going to be affecting the background, but it's rather going to be affecting this new layer. So let me just quickly get my brush. Brush. So this is the brush tool. Right click, hit brush. If you want to increase the size, feel free to use the 2 brackets. So hit the closing bracket to increase the size, just like I'm doing, or the opening bracket to reduce the size. You could also just from the 2 bar over here, click this drop down button, adjust size, get it, adjust the size. You could also adjust the direction, but this is circular brush, so the direction doesn't really matter. The hardness or softness, you could also choose the brush type you want. We have these are soft brushes. The effects, they affect layers differently, so you just have to practice with them and get to know which is suited for what purpose. There's also another way you could do it, adjusting the brush sizes. You could hold down Alt, right click and drag to the left to reduce brush size, right click and drag to the right to increase brush size. So to increase or decrease the softness or hardness of the brush, hold down the Alt key, right click and drag downwards to increase hardness. That is while reducing softness. Push up upwards to increase softness while reducing hardness, you get to, instead of just going straight to the toolbar option and selecting whether hard brush or soft brush. This is pretty basic stuff. I mean, basic stuff you should know, not just basic stuff, but basic stuff you should know. So that is it for a first layer. Now on this layer, we could create whatever we want. So let's say we come in, increase hardness a little. So let's say I want to write hello guys, or just paint anything, or let's do something. Let me see, let's try to draw something good, and then it's kind of sad, but well, haha. Guys, do you realize what just happened? It all affected the layer. I tried to draw a smiley, but looks like I'm very bad at the drawing. So this is it, our new layer, which is layer 1. And so if you create other layers, it's gonna be named that way. So layer 1 at the bottom, so that is the order of layers on top of each other. Okay, so whatever you create, you're going to be creating upwards. Good. So another way of bringing layers to life is just simply by going to create something. For instance, if I go to the rectangle tool, the shapes tool, and I select a rectangle and draw a rectangle here. Let me change the color to black for conspicuous. Good, for contrast reasons. So you realize that this layer is automatically created over here. It's not named layer 1 but rectangle 1 because it is created on the existence or on the creation of this new rectangle over there. So let's say we go to create a circle this time, or an ellipse, a circle using the ellipse tool. Sorry, let's just make this 500 by 500. I just clicked it, or you could also drag to create, but then let's change the color to red or pink, whatever it is. Press Ctrl T to pull up the transform and drag to adjust size. So guys, here we have it. We have the ellipse on the rectangle, both of them on the background layer. So we could change this. So we're going to push the rectangle upwards. You see, it goes over the ellipse, right? Ellipse over the rectangle. Now let's say we unlock the background layer, so it then becomes a normal layer, and then we can decide to bring the black rectangle below the white plain background. This is what happens. It seems the rectangle has disappeared, but it hasn't disappeared. It is only obscured by this white background layer. And so if we turn the visor off, we're still gonna have it that way. We also bring this down, but since the visor is off, we are still gonna have only the pink. Let me just change the color so that I'll be confident in calling it red. So that we are still gonna have the red ellipse and black rectangle. So guys, that is it for layers. Let me just throw in a few more things over here. So a layer can be opaque, it can be transparent, it can be translucent. You decide. So let's take a look at something. This is black. I don't know how. Okay, black on red, I think that's gonna be, it's gonna look somewhat like, but anyway. So let's click on the red ellipse. We want to tweak its opacity to make it either totally opaque, translucent, or transparent. So opacity, you should come here, drop down the slider and use the slider. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at 50%, which is kind of see-through, so you can see parts of the black in that particular section. And then we continue. You realize the thickness or intensity of the opacity, and there we have it. There's also this option fill. Now in order to explain this option for you, the fill, it kind of works like opacity. just that it completely adds or removes. For instance, you see at 100%, you take it to 50%, it is like it, but then you get to understand what it actually does. The fill affects the content of the shape or of that thing from within its borders. Okay, so for instance, you can apply certain styles to this particular layer, this particular ellipse layer, and we can do that by right clicking on it, going to blending options. Okay, blending options, so you click on it, and then this layer style dialog box opens. So I'm just going to drag this. All right, we're going to have to move this over here so that you get a full grasping of what's going on. Push this up so that there's some contrast, so that with whatever effects I'm using, you get to see it quite clearly. So we go back on the ellipse, right click, go to blending options, and then it's open. So we're going to be working from the right, seeing the effect on the left. Okay, so there are some options here. You could go for the bevel and emboss, stroking, inner shadow. That's to come in. I will do a full tutorial on blending options, but I just want you to get to know some of the things you can do. So for instance, inner shadow, no, let's start with inner glow. Inner glow, this is inner glow. Good. Now we could set the color to let's use yellow. Whatever we do, I'm trying to increase the opacity a little. Can you see that yellow ring around it? Increase the size. Do you see there's this glow effect? So it's the same thing for inner shadow. It's about the same thing for inner shadow. If you increase the size, you feel that shadowy effect inside it. It looks like some 3D ball. That's just the shadow effect. So I'm going to use the stroke here to explain the fill. The fill we just looked at. So we are going to stroke this from the outside. So we're going to go to the position, select outside, color, let's use yellow, so that it's very conspicuous, and then click on OK to apply. Now observe the difference between opacity and the fill. Once you register the slider downwards, you see the red part of the circle together with its stroke, which is the yellow part, becomes opaque. It becomes translucent. When you push it upwards, it becomes purely opaque. That's with the opacity. But with the fill, let's say we push it down to 0%, you've seen that the red has disappeared, leaving the yellow. And so it's that reason why I said that the fill only affects the content of the fill only affects the content of the shape or whatever particular layer you selected within the borders. It doesn't go outside of the borders. Okay, and so that is how come the stroke effect is still visible. Good. So that is basically it for the layer styles. We also have blend modes. Blend modes. This is a really nice portion. I'm gonna have to use some images to explain this feature. Blend modes. Blend modes. Just stay here. What? Where is this image? Let's see. It should be somewhere. Okay, let's just take this. I hope it would work. Yeah, it should work actually. So this is a beautiful picture of a sunset. Let's see how we can play around with it. I'm gonna have to set this below that. Good. So blend modes for basic understanding, take it as the application allows you to multiply, divide, add and subtract lights and colors, okay, like black and white, gray, grayscale, among many others. So that is what it allows you to do. So I'm going to select the Ghana Independence Arc. It's this. On dissolve, you'd realize you'd notice the edges are a little tarted, but you can't see it from here. So let's go to darken. Do you see how it has blended? It has blended the Ghana Independence Arc with the sunset at the sea. It looks kind of freaky. Multiply. So you could, in your free time or your practice time, go through all of these. I'm going to explain further how this works. So let's see this. It works with lightning, you know, as I already mentioned, adding and subtracting, multiplying, dividing lights. So this is for soft lights. Overlay, let's try overlay. Overlay works quite better than soft light. Well, that's in my opinion. Hard lights too bad. Yeah, so that is just it. So we're just going to leave it on overlay. So that is just it. And then so once you select it, hit enter to accept your change, and that is it. So great, that is it for layers and some of the things you could do with them. And now on to masks. So a mask, like we know the regular mask, you know, it obscures, it hides a part of something while revealing another part. Okay, for instance, like a face mask, or yeah, like a face mask could reveal your eyes and cover the other parts of your face. And that is what masks do even here in Photoshop. And I'm going to use this so I'm going to reset this to normal because I need it for what I'm about to do. Select my Independence arc layer. I'm going to have to reduce it. I'm going to have to turn this off. Zoom in a little bit because I'm now going to be doing some selection. Okay, now for the first time we're going to do some selection, even though I'm not yet teaching the tools, but I'm just going to show you some. So you should come to this layer. It's going to be this. For yours it's going to be this, which is the lasso tool, which you use in making selections. Some other person would go for the selection tool, which is a quick selection tool, but I prefer the lasso tool because this one has straight edges. So, and the color of the background and the image itself are similar, so I don't want it to do a poor selection for me. So I'm just going to select the polygon lasso tool. This is the polygon lasso. It enables you to create polygonal selections. You get it? And so that is basically it. Or the magnetic lasso tool simply allows you follow. It gets attached. It samples the pixels around the pointer and then finds the best portion to attach itself. So that's what I'm going to be doing. By the way, this is an example for you to see how the masking works. So I would want you to examine the background of the picture and then remove. So this is a pretty simple, interesting selection. All right. And then we come back and click, and so this selection has been done. So as I said, masks hide certain parts of things. It hides it. It does not distract or delete or destroy it. Okay, it only hides it from your view. So you could come here, which is a mask, add layer mask, and hit it, and you realize that every part of anything else that was not selected is gone, leaving our Independence arc. The selection was not done well, like I told you. I would have preferred to do it with my pen tool or the polygonal lasso tool, but anyway. So that's what has happened, guys. So this is way better than let's say if you wanted to get rid of the background. Let's say you do the selection and use the eraser to clean the part you do not want. So what if later on you wanted to come back and work on it? What do? It means you'd have to import this image again and work on it over and over again, and that's nobody likes to do tedious work when there is a much more efficient and easier way to do things. And so that is it. That is basically masks. There are some things about black and white painting with black and white. Let me increase my brush size a little. So the foreground color is black. Let us see something. Guys, did you see that? So over here you could continue to include or remove certain hidden parts. Okay, so for instance, in this particular object, our gray background is hidden. The background that was like this, it is hidden, okay, due to the masking effect. So over here our gray background is hidden due to the masking effect. So say you wanted to let's say for this part, or for the top part, or let's say you wanted to restore it. So what you could do is use the brush tool, hit B or go to the brush, adjust your size, and then to reveal things from a mask, use the color white. So you want to make sure that your foreground color, hold on, so you'd want to make sure that your foreground color is white. Then go to the part where you want to reveal what is hidden, click and drag, just simply paint. So we're able to paint everything back. Haha, guys, you see it. And then when you check over here, it's all white again. That means everything is being revealed. So we could switch. You could either press the X to switch, or you'd hit this to switch. So now we want to hide, so we go back to D and we hide the parts we don't want to be seen. You see what's happening. You could switch it again, paint the part we want to be seen. That is simply what masks do. Masks are really great, and just relax, we'll get all into masking and some of the techniques used in masking. And that is it. So now down to smart objects. I know I touched a little on smart objects in the previous episodes. You know what they are by now. Smart objects simply allows you to edit layers non-destructively. Okay, let me delete this. Let me delete the masks. Oh, all right, that hurts. So smart objects allow you to edit layers non-destructively. What I mean by non-destructively is that it retains the detail and information on that particular layer, and so no matter what you do to it, you can always restore it back to its original, its normal form. In the previous episode, I showed you how to detect which layer is a smart object and which layer is not, and so this particular one is a smart object. So for what I'm about to do, we are going to want to create a new layer. Make this red. So that's it, red, yellow, green, and then we could throw in a black star. So that is all on this front. Okay, so we could change the blend mode to soft light. Nah, because of the black in there, it makes everything. We could change everything to soft light, to overlay. So in order to save this, because of we're gonna have to flatten the image. And guys, that is it. You've seen how it's been transformed. We've worked on the smart object. So what we could also do is we could also apply filters to it. We could go to filter, blur, sorry, I chose the wrong blur. So go to blur, go to Gaussian blur. See, it's become blur. So you could also apply filters to it anyhow you wanted. You could also apply some hue and saturation. You decide. I know this is really ugly, but something, and it's all going to be non-destructive. Okay, so we're going to really compress this. We're going to reduce its size. It's non-destructive. And then we pull it back up, and you see that, guys, it's still in its form just as we did it. But imagine we raster. Where's rasterize layer? We rasterize the layer. Rastering a layer simply converts it from a smart object to a regular layer. So if we decrease it, and we increase it again, it's going to lose all the detail and resolution. See, it's bad. It's worse than it was. And so guys, that is basically it about Smart Object. If you have any questions, I know you may have some more questions, kindly send me a DM on my WhatsApp or send me an email at therichardsjr@gmail.com, and I will attend to you as soon as possible. We're going to pick this up again in the next episode where we do some more interesting stuff. Stay tuned and thank you for joining this channel, and stay safe.